Hey guys, welcome back to Heal, Survive, and Thrive. I am really excited this week. We're going to dive into being the fixer. If you're the person in the family that does the check-ins, has their hand in everything, you are always in control. You're the fixer. You're the person in the family that everyone goes to help them with their problems. And you have so graciously taken on this role because, quite frankly, you've gone through some trauma, and that's the only reason why you take on this role. And we're going to fix that today. A lot of people think that they're just being a good person. I'm just being helpful. I'm just being kind. But this isn't about you being helpful or kind. This is about control. This is about you needing to feel safe in these situations by having your hand in every single cookie jar. The problem with this is two things. One is you get burnt out, you get exhausted, you feel resent at some point. The other problem is you tend to attract or train people to be takers, to be people that will take advantage of you. And we're going to talk about the need of feeling safe because that's a huge part of being a fixer in all relationships. It's not about trying to make people happy. It's not about helping people. It's about you being uncomfortable in those situations and you being programmed over time because of what it is that you've been through to kind of step in and try to save or solve or fix rather than dealing with the uncomfortable feelings that you're feeling. And we're going to get more into that throughout the podcast. I always balance everything I do with one part education, one part let's actually solve the damn problem, because we can't just talk about why we are the way we are. We also have to be able to fix the problem. And that's a big thing that I know a lot of us have experienced when we've gone to therapy, when we've tried to, work on ourselves throughout the years is, well, what do I do? Like, I'm at this stage in my life. Like, how do I fix this problem? I'm going to tell you just, the golden nugget here. Here's the answer is you have to learn how to parent yourself. And the reason why I stress self-parenting so much in all of my courses, in my coaching, is because it's mental health. It is essentially the relationship that you have with yourself. And if you don't have a great relationship with yourself, then you are going to allow some of the things that you've been through that have programmed you to be codependent, to be the fixer, to, overlook your own needs, to not know who you are, to not go after what you want. Or if you start to go after what you want, when the fear or the worry or the stress or anxiety starts to take over, you just kind of fold because you just don't know what to do. So I am all about solutions and giving you practical, easy things that will help you with whatever it is that you're going through. Because it's one thing to say, okay, I'm just going to let go. Okay, I'm just going to move on. Okay, Steph, this is where I'm at this point in my life. I'm going through perimenopause. I feel horrible. I don't feel like myself. Essentially, what your midlife transition is a point in your life where you're supposed to reinvent yourself. And we've all gone through reinventions, whether we went through a divorce or a breakup, we graduated college, we left high school. There were all these different points in our lives where we've had to reinvent ourselves. And this is just another reinvention point. It just gets triggered by an event. So maybe you're sitting here like, I know I'm this person. I don't want to be this person. For whatever the reasons are, at this point, this stage of your life, you're finally saying, I don't want to be this person anymore. And I'm ready to become a healthier version. I'm ready to take care of me. I'm ready to focus more on me. I realize that by me being this person, I have attracted horrible people into my life. I have allowed people to take advantage of me. And that's kind of where it stops. You always have to go through enough pain in order to hit a point where you want to actually change something. You are never going to be able to change anything about who you are if you have not hit your pain threshold. And unfortunately, everyone's pain threshold is different regarding everything that we go through. Your anxiety pain threshold, where you're like, okay, I have to learn how to deal with this anxiety. I have to learn how to deal with this, insecurity or this low self-esteem, or this is the reason why I don't have the relationship that I want. This is the reason why I'm not making the money that I want. Being able to first say, hi, I'm an alcoholic. That's step one, is the acknowledgement of something's wrong. There's a problem and I need to fix it. Now, the fixing it is you taking responsibility for it. But sometimes before we can really own something, we need to really understand it. That validation and empathy for what we've been through that has led us to this point, it really does help. It's a not a brief moment, but everyone needs to feel that comfort of, oh, I'm not crazy. Oh, I'm not the only alcoholic. Oh, I'm not the only person that's been through a narcissistic relationship. Oh, I'm not the only person going through perimenopause. Oh, I'm not the only person that's struggling to figure out who I am in my mid-20s. Those are all questions that we've all, or all statements that we've all said, and we've all felt alone when we've said them, because most of the time, no one in your life has experienced what it is that you've experienced. The fixer that you are today is a product of what it is that you've been through. You learned very quickly through repetition, through you being programmed, that if everyone else is okay, then there's peace. And so trying to control situations to make sure that there's peace allowed you to then have peace. And that's why you became the fixer. The fixer was never about helping your mother, your father, your sister, your friend. It never was about that. It was never about you being a good person. It was about you shutting everyone up so you can feel peace. And then it became an addictive cycle of wanting control in life in all of these situations in order for you to get peace. And we're going to get into how to basically handle that uncomfortableness so you're not so programmed to jump in and try to save the day with everyone and everything and every problem. That's not a confident person, and that's just not who you are. You weren't born to be the fixer. You were born to be a good person. You were born to be a helpful person, but there's a difference between loving someone and trying to fix everything. Fixing everything is not love. The problem with being the fixer is that you will create 3 really major problems in your life. I know you've already experienced all of these at some point in time. Tell me down in the comments which one you're kind of struggling with right now, but you're going to feel drained. You're going to feel emotionally exhausted. Now, if you're highly sensitive, this is going to happen really quickly, because when you feel emotionally drained, the reason why you're feeling that is because you're neglecting yourself. So your needs get put to the side because someone else's needs are taking the forefront. Then you become resentful. Now, when you're resentful, you're sitting in nastiness. You're sitting in mucky water. You're sitting in anger. You're sitting in just like the resent that I'm doing more than you, when the problem is that you've taken on more than you should. And that's not their problem. That's your problem. When someone becomes a fixer in life, whether it's someone who struggles with codependency or just a fixer in general, I come in, I save the day. You tell me your problem, I feel like the problem's mine. It almost always, I would probably say 100% of the time, I don't want to even say almost always, it will be rooted in a childhood trauma that you went through. We know that. What does that mean? What it means is emotional kind of safety. You feeling safe in your environments was dependent on everyone being happy, at peace, calm, because you lived in some chaos. You lived in instability. How is she going to behave today? What was dad going to do? Was there going to be a big fight? Was there going to be yelling and screaming? When you live in environments where it is a little unstable at times, and it doesn't have to be anything dramatic. You didn't have to live in a household where dad was a raging alcoholic, was beating mom, or mom and dad just fought like cats and dogs. It doesn't really have to be like that either. It could be maybe you were raised in a household where one of your siblings had a problem. Maybe they were very high strung. Maybe they were very anxious. Maybe they just had a lot of stuff which required a lot of attention from mom and dad. Maybe you are a highly sensitive person, and when energies feel off, it affected you so much. So you learned to kind of step in and try to solve things so the energies would just calm down. It doesn't have to be anything really catastrophic in order for you to become the fixer. It can be something really small, like those examples. It's all about instability. It's all about something being unpredictable. How was my sibling going to be to me today? Were they going to like me, or were they going to be really cruel to me? How was dad going to be today? Was he going to have a temper and be a little all over the place, or was he going to be nice? Was he going to be positive? Was he going to be happy? And now, of course, we can't all just be the same person all day, every day. It's impossible. But the instability is when things are kind of going up and down and they're very rocky. Whereas what's supposed to happen in life is you're kind of supposed to always be coasting along a little bit. Of course, things are ebbing and flowing, but they're not going to these like extremes where you don't know what you're walking into. When that happens and you're living in a rockier situation where things are ebbing and flowing a little too much, maybe there's a little too much change, personalities are a little all over the place, dad is, really stressed and he has a temper, mom's narcissistic, whatever your situation was, what you learned is how to read everyone's mood. When you can read moods, and this is really a very intuitive person, this is a very empathetic person, where you have the ability to feel energy, sense what's going on, and what you try to do, and this wasn't something obviously that you were consciously doing, it is something that you're doing now, but still you're not consciously aware of it because you've programmed yourself in this way, is when you read moods, you are trying to basically figure out how to avoid a conflict. Now, a conflict could just be the energy is changing. This person's getting meaner, more negative, nasty. Now you start becoming responsible. You become the person in the family that when something isn't going right, they come to you, that people actually welcome you in to help them solve their problems. They want your input because you're actually really good at it. You're good at fixing problems. Also because you're probably a little bit of an old soul. You understand logically how to get yourself somewhere or how to avoid this situation by doing this. And for some reason, you have been the person in the family where to some extent, everyone respects you. They understand that you kind of know what you're talking about because you're the fixer. You're the one that we go to when there is a problem. You really quickly took on adult responsibilities very quickly in life. You grew up very fast. You have comforted your parents. And every child is going to see their parents being human throughout the course of their childhood. And if they have empathy whatsoever, comforting someone is a natural response to seeing someone uncomfortable. Here's the problem, is that it became something that was a continuous thing that you did over and over. It was also a continuous thing that the person that was receiving your comfort began to enjoy. Instead of knowing this isn't your responsibility to do and almost not suppressing it, but keeping it to themselves and dealing with it on their own was not something that happened. So they took advantage of the fact that you are probably an old soul. You understood what was happening. You knew how to solve the problems, and they took advantage of that. I don't want to even say kindness because, again, it wasn't you trying to be a good person. It was you trying to soothe yourself and calm yourself down and keep yourself safe by fixing something in the room. Now, the fixer, when you become an adult, it's going to show up in a different way than it did when you were a child. Because now as an adult, for the most part, but when you see conflict arising, you can just leave the situation. You don't have to stay any longer. You're not stuck in a household with your parents and your siblings and you are trying to survive that experience. So now you can leave. Here's the question. Do you actually leave? As now being an adult, when you walk into an environment that is not healthy, the energy is low, it's just not a good situation for you. Do you walk away or do you keep walking into the fire and you're trying to fix it? Chances are you're trying to fix it. You haven't learned boundaries. Instead of those old sayings of being a fixer that were a little bit unconscious, now as an adult, it sounds more like, I just want everyone to be happy. It's easier if I handle it. How many times have you heard that or have you said that? I can't relax until everyone's okay, until everything's done. Underneath those phrases, what's living inside of you is anxiety because it's really not about everyone else being okay or everything getting done. It is about you feeling safe. you feeling peace, you feeling calm, you experiencing those things. You've just masked that anxiety with it being about everyone else, and that you can't be okay unless everything else around you is okay. Now, here's the downside to where you are right now. All of this unfortunately has already happened to you, or maybe just a couple of things. But the fixer will always attract emotionally unavailable people. They will attract the takers. They will attract the unhealed people that do not even know they have issues. These are the people that we go to therapy about. Let's just be honest. You will also take on other people's pain like it's yours. And when you take on someone else's pain, now you're adding more weight to what life has already put on you. Your own life is already a lot and stressful. What you're going through, what you're feeling, and now you've just tacked on more of it that you can't. I mean, literally, as I say that, my back is actually starting to hurt because you're weighing yourself down with everyone else's stuff on top of your own. At some point, you will absolutely start to feel unappreciated and resentful because what you're putting in, you're realizing no one's really reciprocating to that extent. If anything, most likely you're going to end up getting breadcrumbs. You have confused love with taking on responsibility. So you think that it's loving for you to take on someone else's stuff and help them and see it all the way through. Now, here's the healthy version of love. Love is supporting. Love is not fixing. Love is not doing. Love is not taking on responsibilities that are not yours. Love is supporting. Here's one of the uncomfortable things that you will experience is you're going to have to sit and that someone else is uncomfortable. When you're an empathetic person, when you're highly sensitive, that is very uncomfortable for you to do because you don't want to see anyone uncomfortable. You want to see everyone happy. And that's a wound. And of course, we want everyone to be happy, but that is a wound that does have to do with you and not about this other person. When it is always about everyone else and we're putting our hand in every single cookie jar and every single problem, not only, of course, are we going to feel exhausted and burnt out, but we're going to go through a period where we ourselves are completely detached from our own needs, wants, and how we can best take care of ourselves. That's the huge problem with being the fixer, is that eventually you start to lose who you are in the fixing. This could be a codependent person, but this could also be a mother. If you're a mother and you're knee deep in motherhood, no matter what the ages are, you could very well lose yourself in that role and in that stage of life. If you're in a relationship, and it doesn't matter if you're with a good person or a crappy person, you could start to lose yourself in that relationship because the relationship becomes all about the other person and not about yourself. It's all about thinking that we love this person, so we take on responsibilities that are not ours, instead of supporting a person and letting them go through their own life journey and be uncomfortable sometimes and have to have the strength to overcome and work on themselves. You're supposed to be a partner. You're not supposed to be that person living that experience. When you are the person that everyone goes to, you really do, by everyone else, look like the person that is very strong, very thoughtful, very loving, but underneath you being that strong, amazing person is a person that is filled with fear. And the fear comes from being needed. The fear comes from abandonment. The fear comes from losing the connection that I have with you if you think by me helping you that I'm not a good person, that you're just basically going to cut me off, because we're programmed to live in or crave that tribalness where we belong to a group, where we belong in a relationship, where we belong in a family. And if we fear that if we don't do something, here we go with conditional love, that we're going to leave that tribe or not have the support that we need, we're going to do anything that we possibly can in order to kind of stay with the what we think is certainty, but it's not, the certainty that you'll never leave, that you'll always be there for me. If you're doing everything yourself, then you're training people that no one needs to do anything for you. And when you do need people, when they don't show up, you become resentful because you haven't learned how to hold people accountable, how to tell people who you are and what you need and the type of relationship that you demand. And then being able to walk away when someone says or shows you that they're not capable of being the person that you want them to be. And I don't care if that's a romantic relationship, a friendship, or even a family member. No one at this stage of your life needs to be in your life. You no longer need anyone the way you did when you were 3 years old. You needed someone at 3 years old. And this is the beauty of free will, is you need great relationships. You need healthy relationships. You need people that play the 50-50 game where it's a great give and take and it's mutual and it's easy and there's no drama. You don't need the friction. You don't need your hand in every cookie jar. You don't need to be putting more weight on you that you already have. What you need is to heal the fixer pattern. One of the first questions that every single person needs to ask themselves if they're really trying to heal this is, am I doing this because I'm in a good place to do it, or am I doing it because I'm uncomfortable? And figuring out what is the uncomfortable. Is the uncomfortable that I feel that you should do this? I feel that I get uncomfortable when you're not getting your way, and then you're uncomfortable with it. Am I uncomfortable because the vibes in the room are getting a little off, the energy is kind of because both of those things, you can leave a situation. So number one, if you're in a situation or a room or an environment where the energy's off, or the person's just being negative, or the person's kind of toxic, or they don't respect your boundaries, whatever that kind of looks like, any kind of relationship that you're like, okay, I like you, but I mean, this isn't the easiest relationship. You're not really like my people's. I might have just been born to be your sister or your brother or your daughter or your son or your mother, whatever. But is this relationship actually good for me? And so how do I have a relationship with you where there are boundaries, where I can be with you during Thanksgiving or the holidays, but I don't take on your energy? Also, when you're stepping in to do something, why am I doing this? Am I doing this because I'm in a habit of just, when there's a problem, I just come in and fix it? That was me for years. It wasn't that I was trying to do this. It was, I didn't stop and pause and ask myself, should I be doing this right now? Is it good for me to be doing this right now? Once I really started asking myself that question, every single time someone needed something of me, I learned how to put myself first instead of just doing. It was just a habit of just doing and being the doer instead of consciously deciding when I wanted to do and when it was actually good for me to do. So this is where the parenting kind of started. I looked at myself as a little child. I would never let Ryan, when he was a child or a baby, or even now, do something if I didn't think it was in his best interest to do it. So no, you're not going to go outside and play if you have a fever. So no, you're not going to go over a friend's house or do this if you haven't done your homework. No, you don't get to, go out and go get ice cream if you're a little exhausted right now. What's best for you is that you kind of sit and rest. Learning how to listen to yourself, listen to that intuitiveness, but also be the parent that steps in. So, Ryan's intuitiveness might just be, I want to go do this right now, but he's getting old enough now where he does know that he shouldn't because he needs to do his homework, or he wants to do it, but intuitively he knows that he needs to rest. So he's learning the difference between want and intuition. When you are really working on yourself, you're learning those two things as well. And even sometimes when the want sounds so loud and so believable, your adult self comes in and says, I really don't care. This is what we're doing. You're not going to fix that problem right now because that problem has nothing to do with you. And I know it makes you feel uncomfortable that they're uncomfortable, but we're going to sit in that for a minute. And the more you kind of sit in it, you realize it subsides really quickly and you move on really quickly because it's not your problem. What has happened is every time there is a problem, you have taken on so much for so long that it feels like it's your problem. The hardest part in the very beginning is recognizing when you are jumping in and you've become unaware. You've become completely unconscious to the old pattern of you being the fixer and just stepping in and trying to save the day. To be honest, that's 9 times out of 10, that's the hardest part. And that is the hardest part about breaking any habit, is the self-awareness of when you're in the midst of doing it. If you were trying to not smoke cigarettes, you might very well just, granted, you should probably throw them all out, but you could very well just pick up a cigarette and start lighting it up and not even realize what you're doing because you're in a pattern of being a smoker. When we start to ask ourselves, why am I doing this? A lot of what's going to come up is, of course, the uncomfortableness, but go underneath the uncomfortableness, what's really there: anxiety, guilt, and fear. So if someone needs your help, especially if they're actually guilting you into helping them or being there for them, and you know it's just not in your best interest, then you might feel even more guilt. But let's say they don't do that. You might just feel guilty in general for not doing it. That is a very common side effect of someone who has been a codependent fixer for a very long time, a person that has always come in and tried to save the day with every single person, is that you feel like it's your responsibility that this person doesn't feel good right now, or that they're a little annoyed, or that they're bored, or that they needed you, or that they asked you for a favor and you said no. You feel guilt for that. And part of that is absolutely normal and probably even semi-good because it means you have empathy. But being able to let the guilt go needs to absolutely happen. We can't sit in the guilt where then we backtrack and we go against what it is that we were doing and we go and help the person. This is huge, is starting to sit in the discomfort that you feel, whether it is anxiety, whether it is guilt, whether it is fear, just sitting in it for a minute. It's a big part of being able to start undoing what's been done, which is this pattern. When someone is upset, especially when they're just very upset, like you can feel the tension. Your body, being a sensitive person, being someone who's probably highly empathetic, your body's going to go into a little bit of overdrive. Learning how to pause and take a breath and parent yourself, which is, I know that they're uncomfortable. I know that they're upset. It's making me a little uncomfortable too, but their emotions are not my responsibility. And that's something that you're repeating constantly. You're almost repeating it so much to yourself that it becomes a form of self-soothing. Because what it ends up doing is it helps that kind of inner child that's feeling the anxiety or the guilt or the fear. It helps their nervous system to start to calm down, because that inner child needs the reminder constantly that this is not theirs to pick up. That's a huge step towards really recovery. Are you working on this problem? You really have to start meeting your own needs. The way that you have given and shown up for everyone else has to be the new way that you live your life. Being selfish at this phase of your life is essential towards you reinventing yourself, because you don't want to be the same person. Reinvention is all about changing, evolving, growing, and a lot of it is goal setting, of course, but a big part of it is because once you're going to goal set something, you're going to find a wound. You're going to find a fear, you're going to find an insecurity, you're going to find something that you have to tackle. That thing that you're tackling is way harder to do, and it's necessary. I mean, you can't skip over this part in order to become who you want to become or have what you want to have. So if you want to have better relationships, you're going to have to change how you interact with people, who you are in relationships with people. You're going to have to learn how to take better care of yourself, which means the parent has to take over and say, we're resting when we need to rest. The answer was actually no. Here's the boundary that I have. Letting others handle their own emotions and not being responsible for the fact that someone's upset with you because you said no, not really your problem. And it's easier said than done, but this is where the self-parenting comes into play, because you have to deal with these things yourself. And that's the part of being human, is you're in your own bubble and you have to learn how to take care of yourself. And that's what this is about. It's not just about teaching you why you are a fixer or here's all of the steps in order to change that. It's about learning the basic skill in order to do all of those steps. I can give you the 1, 2, 3 on how to not be a fixer, but step 1 might be really hard for you. Maybe step 1 wasn't hard. Maybe step 3 is going to be the doozy for you. And each step is going to come with its own hurdle. But guess what? Each step also has to get done in order for you to change and not be this person anymore. And by you not being this person anymore and you changing and growing and evolving, you will get different results. You will have better relationships. When you were a child and you learned this and you became the fixer, you needed the environments to be calm and be okay, because it was a survival tactic that you learned when you were in those environments. Now as an adult, you still feel like you're in that same realm, but you're not. So now we're going to hold back from fixing, because we don't need to fix the way we did when we were 7, 8, 12, whatever, because it's not a survival tactic anymore, because you don't need that person. You could very well want that person in your life, but you don't need them in order to survive. So since we don't need a person in order to survive, we're going to start doing the best thing in the world, which is for us and for them, which is, because if you really love this person, this is what you're going to do. And it's uncomfortable. And even as a parent, it's something that even parents struggle with, because they don't want to see their child uncomfortable. Put child in the place of partner, mother, sister, friend, whoever. You're going to let them handle their own mess. You're going to let them be uncomfortable, even if it's uncomfortable for you, because what ends up happening is 2 things. 1, you force this person to handle their own problems, and you'll be amazed at how some people can just rise to the occasion when they have no other option but to do so. So you're not really helping this person by fixing the problem or getting your nose into it. What you're doing is you're just enabling. You're also, which is the biggest thing in terms of healing, is you're healing your nervous system. You're teaching your nervous system that every problem in the world is not your responsibility to take on, and that everything doesn't fall apart if you don't have your hand in it. You'll be amazed at when you just stop doing everything, that wow, everything just starts to work out and everything's fine. You're fine. You actually feel better. And that is honestly like the goal of all of this. When I really started doing this, the first thing, and it was constant every single time someone asked me of something, was, should I be doing this? Is it good for me to be doing this? Learning how to say no. And these things really, for me, weren't incredibly difficult. What was difficult was catching myself doing the old patterns and then trying to do something different. What was difficult was, of course, sitting in that little bit of uncomfortableness, but it wasn't, ridiculously hard. And it just takes consistency for you to get kind of come full circle and really change how you interact with people. And then you'll see just how much your relationships start to change and how they get so much better, and how you feel lighter and freer and you can handle your own problems now, and you're taking better care of yourself. I mean, everything starts to improve when you start to do this. If you have any questions about any of this, what you're struggling with, please leave them for me down below. I always love reading them. I'm usually in there the first hour or 2 that I post a video and having those conversations with you guys. Thank you guys so much. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for subscribing and joining me today. If you're listening on the podcast, I hope you enjoyed your 40-minute walk. I don't even know how long this is right now, but I hope you enjoyed your walk. I hope you got all your cleaning done. I hope your drive to work wasn't too brutal. Thank you guys for listening. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. My goodness. And before I forget, I can't believe I even forgot to mention this. We are doing 50% off all of my online courses. And it is every single course. We have put all of them back on the website. So whatever you are into, if you are looking to move on, if you're looking to rebuild, if you're looking to self-parent, there's a ton of content, ton of information. You have access to it for a lifetime. There's videos, there's homework. You have me in the chat section. I mean, it is honestly, in my opinion, so much that is there for you, regardless of what it is that you're really looking for. Please take advantage. We're doing it for the entire month of November. I'll put everything down below in terms of the coupon code and everything, but essentially it's save 50. It's all over the website. So just click on the link down below and you'll find that information there.